At the beginning of the book of Daniel, we were introduced to four young people who were tempted to compromise in their walk with God. They chose obedience, and God richly blessed their lives. When we come to chapter 3, three of these men are tested again. This test came with a death penalty. Let's look at the test on Answers for Living. King Nebuchadnezzar had a huge statue built in the middle of Babylon. And we don't know what the statue was, but it probably was a statue of one of their gods. The king of Babylon announced to every person in his kingdom that he ruled over, when you hear the instruments play, bow down and worship the statue, or you'll be thrown into the blazing fire. Now the King of Kings, Jehovah, had said, do not worship any other god. You are to have no graven images. Well, when the Israelites went to war, in Deuteronomy 7 it says that they were to destroy images and not even use the metal from the images for any other things. And in Daniel chapter 12, the Israelites weren't even to inquire how a false deity functioned. Don't even ask about those false gods. You don't need to know. So even in captivity, God's law was supreme over the Babylonian law. And if there's an image, you don't worship it, period. Now this command of Nebuchadnezzar is very clear. When you hear the music, bow down and worship the image. Now Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego were resolute. No way will we worship that image even if we die. Now Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego were very special to the king. He had appointed them as political leaders. He had given them their promotion. And when the music played, they refused to bow down. While the Chaldeans accused them of disrespect for the king's authority, they told the king that they would never serve the king's gods and that they wouldn't bow to the image. And now these accusers, they owed Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego their life, so why would they tattletale on these young men? Well, because the Chaldeans were native to Babylon, and these three men were outsiders. They were Jews. And they were given a higher position in the empire, and so these Chaldeans were driven by jealousy. Now the king was caught between a rock and a hard place. He valued Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego and their service in his kingdom, but he couldn't risk his reputation. So he decides to give them another chance. He says to Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, when you hear the music the next time, just bow down and worship and you'll be allowed to live. But if not, verse 15 says, what God is there who can deliver you out of my hands? And the three young men replied, well, and what they say is not a statement of disrespect. It's the truth. This is what it says. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego replied to the king, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us and will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he doesn't, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold that you set up. What confidence in the Lord. Now here's the irony. Nebuchadnezzar said, bow down or die. God says, bow down and you will die. Now for Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, there would be no idolatry. They would die first. What a lesson for us. If we were faced with violating God's word or dying, what would we do?